welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 50. Thanks for tuning in to the Rock is George podcast on your favorite streaming platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or even knac.com. My guest for this episode is the keyboardist of Lips Turned Blue, Eric Bieber. Lips Turned Blue was formed by Don Mancuso and the late Phil Naro. You may know Phil from his work with the band Talus, with Billy Sheehan. Don was in a band with Lou Gramm back before he joined Foreigner called Black Sheep, and he went on to be a part of Lou Gramm's solo projects and tours. Vocalist Phil Naro passed away last year, complications from cancer. The band Lips Turned Blue decided to move on to honor Phil for their self-titled debut. Phil appears on all the vocals. He appears in the music videos that were released. He was able to complete the album with the band before his passing. I had the chance to speak with Eric Bieber about the history of Lips Turned Blue and the future of the band after Phil's passing. So here's Eric Bieber of Lips Turned Blue. If I knew absolutely nothing about Lips Turned Blue, how would you describe the band's music to me?
It is quite a mixture of rock, hard rock, some very melodic stuff, and some great ballads, and kind of everything in between. I think that's, if people sit down and listen to the album, called it a Dirty Dozen, 13. It's really a mixture of everything. So it's been interesting to have people pick it up of different age groups, and what they hear in it, how it feels to them. And we've been pretty happy that across a pretty good span of generations, people dig it, and there's something there for everybody. And I think part of it's just the nature of the musicians that are playing it, and it's that mishmash of time that we've all spent playing and gigging out and doing what we do, and the crazy time that came together during the early parts of the pandemic that sort of inspired us and brought us together and made the album happen.
So the album is self-titled. It's out now. With some triumph, there is tragedy. Your original singer, Phil Naro, or Naro, I always butcher names. He passed away shortly after you finished the recording of this, but you guys made a promise to make sure that the album was released.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's, in some ways it is bittersweet. You're right. Phil was a great writing partner. He was just a tremendous force, and in many ways an incredibly positive force, given what he personally had to go through, and yet kept an incredibly positive attitude throughout all of his experiences. And I happen to have a few medical issues in the midst of all this myself. And, I remember, Phil calling me up or texting me, just on a very regular basis, not really worried about himself, but worried more about me. And wrote a lot of stuff together, and he believed it was some of his best work, and was incredibly proud of it. And fortunately, he knew we had gotten the international record contract before he passed, and and was thrilled with that. And so part of the commitment was ensuring that the music got played, it got out there, and that legacy lives on, which is really true for all of us.
Phil had passed away about a year ago this week. Did you guys purposely coincide the release with that anniversary?
No, it just it's just how it worked out. Everything has taken a lot longer. We really would have hoped that the album would have been out a little bit sooner, but with COVID, and then, with the situation in Europe, where CDs get made, it all just takes, it's really messed up a lot of timelines, much less the ability to go out and, support the album gigging out when, Europe and a lot of places were on complete lockdown. So it just sort of happened that indeed it was, just about a year later. But it's tough to think about that. I guess I'd prefer to celebrate the life and the legacy and the great music that Phil created over his remarkable time on the planet.
Well, I have to say it's a fantastic album. I loved it from beginning to end. The only thing I see is like, you're an up and coming band, Lips Turn Blue. I got the emails and I kind of passed on it and I passed on it. And then eventually I listened to it and I'm like, holy shit, why did I pass on this? So kind of reaching that audience today from a newer band. I mean, you guys have been in the industry for a while, but I mean, for a new band, it's got to be a little difficult getting the word out there.
Yeah. So I think, we've all lived that, over a number of decades in the music industry, and just take your best shot. We didn't create it with anything in mind other than, we were trying to create the very best music. And, in many ways it was just happenstance. I mean, so we had played together in different forms and fashion. Donnie Mancuso, the guitarist, Mike Mullane and I had played together quite a bit over the last decade. Donnie and Phil had certainly played together and written together over, a number of albums and over, multiple decades in D Drive and in various incarnations of that. But it was, kind of a single song coming together, which was Pray for Tomorrow, that we wanted to redo as a, really recognition of, at the time, what healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, all the people taking care of patients early on in the pandemic, just to make sure that, they know how appreciated they were. And it was that and a creation of a little video that went with that spurred on song 2, song 3, and all that followed. It was just this kind of catharsis of what we were feeling in the moment. And the songs just came fast and furious. And, we didn't really create it with the idea of signing, for at an international level. We didn't create it with, trying to go out and create hits. We just kept writing songs that we felt in those moments. And, I remember at one point, Phil was going back over to Canada, and I sent him, three tracks of new songs that we had, and said, hey, I think these are cool, man. You gotta take a listen to them. He had one of the songs done by the time he got across the border, because it wasn't that easy getting across the border. Still not that easy getting across the border, but and I think probably within a handful of days he had the other 2 done, and it just that's how it came together. So we're gonna keep at it. Hopefully people will take a listen, within the US and North America, and hopefully outside with the backing of an international label. Hopefully, like you, as the people listen to it, they find something in it, and they love it.
You mentioned Pray for Tomorrow, originally being written as inspiration by the first responders during the pandemic, but it's kind of taken on new life with the war in Ukraine right now. You guys have put out a video. You're allowing it for use for fundraising purposes as well. So if you want to talk a little bit of how that song morphed.
Yeah, so it was a song Donnie and Phil had done in a prior time. And, we wanted to do it as a more broken down version of it, almost an acoustic version of the song. And so, yeah, I made a nice recording then to build the video during the early parts of the pandemic. And then, as we thought about, getting ready to release the album and, where the world's at right now, and just the challenges and the heartbreak, and and not wanting to lose hope. We didn't want to lose hope during the pandemic. We don't want people to lose hope today. And I think music can be an inspirational force, but there's also a reality of the pain, the suffering, and what's going on today. And so that's really, where we came together, stacked hands, and said, hey, look, this is a wonderful anthem song. If this brings, some peace to anybody across the country, Let's get it out there and let people use it for what they may, hopefully for good work and for raising money to support those that need it the most.
The other single that you have out is Just Push, and that kind of goes in the opposite direction, more straight up rock and roll, have a good time song.
That was really the second song that came after we finished recording Pray for Tomorrow. That was a riff Donnie had, and Phil came up with, with the hook. And again, it was one of those ones that came together fast and furiously. Donnie played, got me going, created some cool synth lines to support it, and fun song, danceable song. Couldn't be more different than Pray for Tomorrow. It's another one that, when people hear, you can't help but smile. And, the video that came with it was, it's a fun video, but, neat song. That kind of shows the polarity of music on the album. In a nutshell, it's sort of everything goes in between that. I suppose Sit Up's a little bit more rockier than Just Push, but not a lot.
You have a guest appearance by Lou Gramm, a foreigner. Of course, he was in a band with Mancuso back in the day called Black Sheep. So I assume that's, and Mancuso also played in Lou's solo band. So I assume that's the association there. Were you able to collaborate with Lou, or was it just something, he sang his stuff in, sent it in, you guys made it work?
Well, we made it work. We've all played with Lou. I played a show with him end of the year because it was before the new year. So it's always great to do things like that with somebody that's a superstar like Lou Gramm. Playing the old foreigner songs is it's a lot of fun. He did a great job on the song. He's he's that voice of that, that in this time, and it's just smooth and it's unbelievable. And that's a cool song too. Again, he and Donnie, you're right, it goes way back. Matter of fact, at that particular show, we were sitting back in the green room before and after the show. He was telling me all the old stories about him driving the car they were playing a show in Buffalo, and picking up I don't know, it was a 16 or 17-year-old Donnie Mancuso. Not even sure Donnie could drive yet, and racing for the gig, something about missing the graduation. Crazy stuff. But that's how far back that relationship goes. And I remember the very first time I had played with Lou and Donnie was on stage. There's just something, there was magic. There's something special about watching a couple of guys who have been playing together that long that is almost indescribable. There's a special magic that exists there. So it's great to have him on the album. It's kind of a wonderful last song, bonus song, as the story goes.
MIG, Made in Germany Music, has released the album. How did you guys get your deal with them?
Yeah, so an interesting story. So it happened to meet the guy who does some work with Carl Palmer. Carl was out on the road. Actually, through one of his friends, I got connected to him. Carl was actually coming into town. I hadn't met him before. As a guy named Bruce Pilato, who ultimately has ended up managing the band. Got a chance to meet up with Carl, see one of his shows in Buffalo, and he was doing some interesting art things. Got to talking with Bruce and said, hey, we got all the stuff that's going on, creating a bunch of new songs, and kind of looked at me and said, yeah, heard that before. And I said, why don't you send me a couple? I'll take a listen. I don't think he was too excited about it. So I shot him over a couple of the MP3s, and he calls me back and says, these are really good. I can't get I said him, no need to call. He said, I can't stop thinking about that song. I love that song. Can you send me some more? And so I sent him some of the additional songs and said, oh, this is great stuff, man. he began to shop it with some of the different record companies around the globe. He has lots of connections through his time working with lots of artists. In the end, we landed on MIG. We like the fact that they've got a great roster, like the international aspect. They've got great distribution arms through the U.S., through Asia, and certainly very, very strong in Europe and the U.K.
Are you guys planning on touring this year?
Well, we've done a couple shows already just to kind of get things kicked off. Played one in Rochester, a smaller show. And then just recently we were out at a venue in Arizona, the Music Instrument Museum, which is an amazing venue if you pull it up online. Just almost an acoustically perfect auditorium, just a spectacular place to play. And they've had a great roster of folks in there. And that was a really, really good show. And, it was strange because it's, we're going out and having to play without Phil, obviously. And, we brought in a new singer, Iggy Marino. And so that was really, Iggy's initial time out with the band. And I think, we can talk about him, but he's done a very nice job of respecting Phil's legacy and singing the songs in a way that does that. And yet, he has his own unique voice and talent, and is able to bring that into the picture as well. And
was he suggested to you by somebody, or did you guys have a general audition?
Well, both. So it's in the aftermath of losing Phil, you can imagine how devastated we all were. I mean, it just, it's tough to pick up the pieces. And, it took quite a while, in part, as you had said before, we had made a commitment. We wanted to make sure we fulfilled that commitment. We sort of hung in there rather than, doing what we felt like doing at the time, which was just sort of giving up and walking away. That would have been the wrong thing to do. The music's too good for that. So we did it. But it was hard, trying to find, anyone that can step into, the monstrous shoes that Phil had is tough. And so, trying to find somebody that, fits with the band. We had a great working relationship with Phil. We were friends. That's tough. And so it took a while. In the end, as it turned out, both Bruce, the manager, as well as Roy Stein, who we had brought in to play drums ultimately, they both teach at a little college, Nazareth College in Rochester, and they had Iggy as a student. And his music comp major, I think. And, he's a young guy, he's 25, and they spoke highly of him, said he had great chops, multi-instrumentalist, and, would be willing to give him a shot. And so we gave him a couple of songs off the album for him to demo, and then a new original for him to work on. The 3 songs were great. And that's how he got the gig.
If the album does well, is there a possible vinyl release for it? Because I could see a nice bright blue vinyl going well with the album cover.
I love it. I mean, MIG has talked about it. So I think, it's all going to depend on, how things go and, what the worldwide uptake is. But, I know a number of months back, they talked about, vinyl's kind of cool, vinyl's kind of made a comeback. I think you're onto something relative to the blue. That would be super cool. I love the graphics design was done by a guy in Chicago, and I think he just did a great job with it. It's very, very cool. On the back of the album, that was shot out on the shore of Lake Ontario when Phil was still with us. And it's, again, a great memory. It's actually a really special day. It was one of the last days we were all together. So,
you recently retired from your day job to pursue music full time, and you're actually a physician and hospital administrator and stuff like that. Was it Was it music that brought you out, or was it a little bit pandemic related, a little combination of the both that it was time to go?
How about my wife?
Ah,
I think I think at some point she decided enough's enough. I've been playing music since I was about 4 or 5, and been playing professionally since I don't know 13 or 14, something like that. So never stopped throughout all my alternate careers. Have always played. So it's I was in Chicago for a lot of years, and played all sorts of venues in Chicago, and tough couple of years with the pandemic, certainly. And it was time to do that, and it does certainly free me up to be able to, as you said earlier, if there's a nice little mini tour that exists in Europe, I can pick up and go. If there's a tour in Japan, you can pick up and go. And I think the other great thing is I can sit and write music 24 hours a day now if I want to, and there's nothing better than that.
have you always been in rock and roll bands, or have you varied your styles over the years?
Well, when you're poor, you do what you gotta do. And there's a lot of years where my wife and I, just before my wife, I was pretty poor. I've done kind of anything and everything. I was fortunately a classically trained pianist, so I was able to take that and morph that into pretty much any sort of music. I always envisioned myself, the guitarist always did better with ladies, and so but I was always a mediocre guitarist, a lot better keyboardist, although the guitars were always a lot cheaper than the keyboards and a lot easier to carry, by the way, other than the Marshall stacks. But no, I played literally anything and everything, from playing in an Italian band in Chicago to and gigging, and by the way, gigging a whole lot in that band, to playing in an Elvis band, actually, with a couple of really big Elvis entertainers in the Midwest, and doing some huge shows. I remember doing a show on the south side of Chicago out in a bunch of half beds, and 3,000 or 4,000 people at this Elvis show outdoors, going crazy. Played in blues bands, played in some pretty hard rock bands, and everything in between. If you love music and you love playing and making people happy, that's what it's all about. Again, that's sort of what this album was about, is just connecting with people and telling stories, and putting smiles on people's faces, and having them relate to the music. Again, it's nothing better than because we were sitting at that MIM show recently, watching people's heads as they're hearing music, a lot of it for the first time, and yet they're digging it.
Excellent. I couldn't agree more with the music. If you can make somebody feel good for an hour, forget what's going on around them, the news cycle, the whatever's going on in the world, it's always a good thing.
There's literally nothing better. It's an amazing experience, and to be able to do it with guys that and you like and you trust. Fortunately, again, for a bunch of these guys, we've been playing together for a long time. It's family. These guys were at my birthday party last year. It's it's family. It's the extended family. And so to be able to make music and create, and and have other people hear it and listen to it and like it, it's just it doesn't get better.
Are you planning on releasing any music soon with Iggy on vocals?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the album has got to be given its chance. I think we don't want to create a lot of confusion. I think what we feel good about now, having gone out and played some shows, is Iggy's ability to go out and perform it collectively as a unit. Again, respect the way that it was created originally, with Phil there. We're beginning to work on, and have been working on, songs for a second album. And of course, that'll be a little bit different because, the singer obviously plays a huge role in the direction of the band. I think Iggy's creative guy, and he'll lend his hand in that creative piece of it. So I think that's getting going now. We were very focused on just getting the album out, knowing that he has that ability and can do it when called upon. But most importantly now was the release, and then to be able to support the album as need be over the next period of months. So I think that's where we're living. And I think over the next 6 to 8 months, we'll hopefully get the next album created. We've got a fair bit of work that's already been done on it. So I think we've got a great head start, and it'd be great to this time next year be able to have the second LTB album out.
I can't be the only one that's asked this, but are you any relation to Justin Bieber?
George, it's amazing. You're actually, I get asked that every day. Every time I walk into a restaurant and give my name, somebody wants to know that. And if it helps me get seated, I'm always open to any suggestions. But no, not that I'm aware of. Although we both emanate from probably the same portion of Canada, but I don't think so. I think he's doing better than I am right now. But hey, I'm optimistic, man. I think it's a good album. That it's a good goal to try to outsell the Beeb. So
good thinking. I once interviewed a band member from Australia. His name was Joe Walsh. I'm like, that's not going to work here in America.
Well, that's my statement of the Beeb on the Beeb. How's that?
Perfect. That's all I got for you today, Eric. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. The new album is Lips Turn Blue. It's out now on MIG Music.
Yeah, Spotify, Apple, all the streaming. Hopefully folks get on and download it and get on and take a listen to the 2 videos that are posted. Hopefully you enjoy them.
And I can verify it's worth taking a listen.
George, thanks so much. Appreciate the time. Hopefully everybody loves the music. Thanks so much, guys.
Once again, I want to thank Eric Bieber of Lips Turn Blue for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out the band's self-titled debut, out now on MIG Music. It's also on all streaming platforms. Give it a listen. If you like what you hear, make sure you go out and buy a copy. Support the artist. For all things Lips Turn Blue, check out lipsturnblue.com. I also want to thank Chipster PR for making this interview possible. And Eric, if you can get my daughter tickets to Justin's next show, that'd be great. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.